Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. Over the course of this video, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings on the first episode of Naked and Afraid Brazil, which I believe that you can only catch on Discovery Plus. And during this review, I'll be telling you as the viewing audience whether you should check it out or avoid it if you haven't already seen it. And I will also be giving you my thoughts on the participants in the show. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Now if you haven't seen the series yet, then I think it's important to know that although the series is called Naked and Afraid Brazil, the participants are from Brazil, but the location for the challenge is in Colombia. So if you have any issues reading subtitles during the TV show, then this series is not for you. But if you enjoy these kind of shows, and you're already a fan of Naked and Afraid, then I would highly recommend that you check out Naked and Afraid Brazil. I think that this series shares a lot in common with the original Naked and Afraid, with the exception of some cultural values. For this show, there are 10 survivalists that are divided into 5 teams of 2. Each team is dropped off in the middle of nowhere, and they must walk to their camp area. Speaking of the teams, let's discuss them in the order of appearance. The first team is Renee and Sashi. Renee has a background in fishing, hunting, shelter building, and he came in with a PSR score of 6.9. Sashi has a background in yoga, making fire, and also shelter building, but she came into the show with a PSR score of 6.0. Now when both of these cast members initially met, they seemed to be very friendly to each other, and it looked like they had the makings of a good team. But as time went on, and the team finally made it to their camping spot, after walking for several hours in 100-degree heat, tensions start to rise. It seemed like Sashi took pleasure in challenging everything that Renee was doing during the shelter building process. Renee wanted to get things done, but Sashi felt like she was the expert. One thing that I found interesting was that Sashi admitted that she didn't like Renee taking charge, but she would also use that to her advantage. And we see Sashi allowing Renee to do the majority of the work to build the shelter, while she sits back and conserves her energy. All in all, I think out of the 5 teams, this team has the most issues regarding communication and leadership. Next, there's Itamar and Erica. Itamar has a background in military, he's skilled in making weapons, building shelter, and he came into the challenge with a PSR score of 7.2. Erica has a background in athletics, she's a nutritionist, and she knows which plants are edible, and she came into the challenge with a PSR score of 6.7. Itamar and Erica initially have great chemistry, and Itamar takes the role of leader early on, and the team is seemingly doing well. That is until they come across the closest water source, which I have to admit was something that I wouldn't even let a dog drink out of. But the team opts to spend more time finding a better water source, which came at the expense of completing their shelter by the end of the day. What I found questionable is seeing Itamar drink water out of a pond without boiling it first. I guess if he gets sick, he'll have to do a medical tap out. But I think that this team has what it takes to make it to the end of the challenge, and I don't see them having too many issues going forward. And next up is Josiah and G. Now prior to them meeting, they talk about the prospects of them being physically attracted to their partner during their production interview. And I'm thinking to myself that the only reason that the show would include their answers to this question is because they may become intimate at some point during the challenge. But they meet up, and Josiah has a background in the military, he has experience building shelter, he's a hunter, and he came into the challenge with a PSR score of 7.2. G is an experienced mountaineer, she can make fire, and she came into the challenge with a PSR score of 5.9. Now they spend several hours looking for shelter, and they ultimately settle in a cave. Now what could possibly go wrong with this shelter? I'm willing to bet that other critters out there would love to share the cave with them. But I think that this team has good chemistry, and I can see the both of them making it to the end of the challenge. The fourth team is Tony and Leche. Now my very first observation with Leche was that she was the only female cast member that has seemingly never shaved under her armpits before. Now of course, there's nothing wrong with a woman who doesn't shave, but on the original Naked and Afraid show, the women typically shave under their arms. But Tony has a background in farming, hunting, building shelters, and he came into the challenge with a PSR score of 6.8. Leche is an experienced survivalist, has experience building shelters, she's capable of fasting, and she came into the challenge with a PSR score of 6.2. After they meet, they spend a great deal of time walking in the heat. But two things that I found disturbing from a cultural standpoint. First was that Leche put the pot that the team would need to boil water on her foot, and she walked around with it on. Secondly, once the team arrived at the water source, she put her dirty, bloody, blistered feet inside the water. Now, I'm pretty sure that these actions by Leche won't really harm the team, but if I were Leche's partner and I saw that, I would have tapped out expeditiously. But because the team spent so much time looking for their water source, they ran out of time to build their shelter during the daylight. And I think as a team, Tony and Leche have what it takes to make it to the end, but I can sense major conflict on the horizon. I think that Leche is used to doing things at her own pace, and I think that her carefree attitude may eventually get under Tony's skin. And the last team is Diogo and Raisa. Diogo is another participant who has a background in the military. He can build shelters, traps, he's lived in the wild before, and he came into the challenge with a PSR score of 7.7. His partner Raisa can make fire, she has stamina, and she came into the challenge with a PSR score of 6.0. Throughout this episode, we see that Diogo has taken a leadership role, while Raisa is great in her supporting role. We see them work together to build their shelter, and this team definitely has the best chemistry out of all the teams. I could definitely see this team making it to the end of the challenge without any issues. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate the first episode of Naked and Afraid Brazil a 6. From what I've seen thus far, the show sticks to the same Naked and Afraid formula, and there's really nothing significant to differentiate the show from the original, as of yet that is. But if I'm not mistaken, this show had technically premiered a few years ago, and all the episodes of Naked and Afraid Brazil are available on Discovery+. So if you're into Naked and Afraid content, and you want me to review the remaining episodes of the season, then feel free to let me know in the comment section. Also, if you have any questions or comments related to my review or the episode, feel free to leave them below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.